What do you think of when you hear the name Ivanka Trump? Is it her business, her time in the White House, or her time running her own beauty line? People have always been very interested in Ivanka Trump, who is the daughter of President Donald Trump. After being a famous businessman and fashion icon, she was in the political press for a while. Her life has been anything but normal. Ivanka Trump, on the other hand, has gone back to daily life. Now that she's 43, she's pulling back the curtain and letting us see the real her, flaws and all. Watch this movie to learn why Ivanka Trump has chosen a normal life. Is she making this choice because of a fight with her family, or is there something darker going on? Before she became First Lady, Ivanka Trump was already well known. As a young woman, she lived in a world full of big names and even bigger egos. She wasn't happy living in the huge shadow of her father, President Donald Trump, so she made business her career. In the beginning, she did well in real estate, fashion, and even selling jewelry. She was also very important at the Trump Organization where she worked. At one point, she was in every fancy magazine. She was a lawyer, a business mogul, and a fashion star all in one. It was hard to ignore her, whether you liked her or not. She also became famous all over the country when her dad ran for president. Ivanka went from being a business spokeswoman to a strong political leader with strong beliefs. Ivanka Trump got involved in politics for the first time in 2015. The first time Donald Trump ran for president, she was right in the middle of everything. You probably saw her right in the middle. She wasn't just there to cheer on her dad at events or wave to the cameras. She was there to give his campaign a different tone. It was all about heated talks and big promises for Donald Trump. But Ivanka kept things calm and collected. She talked about policies that working families liked, like paid maternity leave and cheap childcare. These weren't really the main points of her father's plan before she took over. A lot of people were surprised, but she did great in the part with her usual slick acting. At the 2016 Republican National Convention, Ivanka gave a speech that turned heads. She told touching stories about her dad to introduce him, and even talked about how he was a good leader in a way that people could relate to. But what made her stand out was how much she cared about women's rights at work. That was a strange move for the Jopi stage at the time, and it made people wonder if Ivanka was behind it. Behind it. No matter how you feel about her, you had to admit that it was a smart move. No matter how you felt about it, brash, brave, or just plain strange, it made people talk. But the part she had wasn't easy, and she did the best she could with it. During this time, Ivanka also went through a big change. She was no longer just a businessman or reality TV star. She was entering politics where everyone would be watching and analyzing everything she said and did. Some people praised her for bringing important problems to light, while others said she was using her fame to avoid criticism of her father's more controversial policies. What did you think about Ivanka at that time? Do you believe her pitches were real, or did they seem like a well-planned PR stunt? People had strong feelings about Ivanka, but that doesn't change the fact that she played a huge part in the 2016 election. So why did she help Donald run for president? Also, why is she being quiet now that he has one? Barron, her younger brother, was even more involved in Trump's campaign than she was. Is something wrong in the Trump home? In January 2017, Ivanka Trump did something that not many people thought she would. As of now, she is the top advisor to her father, President Donald Trump. The move made a lot of people scratch their heads. The businesswoman we knew was very polished. Would she do well in the rough world of politics? It was Ivanka's job to be the voice of reason in the White House, which was known for its angry words and sharp elbows. Her responsibilities included empowering women, making policies for families, and building up the workforce. At first, it seemed like a natural extension of her campaign image, which was focused on policies and easy to get in touch with. As tempting as it is, getting involved in politics is like jumping into fast-moving water. It didn't take long for Ivanka to get involved in scandals that were in the news every day. One interesting thing is that we don't usually ask men who come on, how much time do you spend with your kids and the rest of the time? Her public job, and her private business interests running into each other was a big problem. Some people said that while she was pushing for policies, her jewelry line, the Ivanka Trump collection, seemed to gain from the extra attention she was getting. Remember when Kellyanne Conway praised her brand in public and sales went through the roof? Talk about making people look twice. Then there were the policies on immigration, climate change, and other controversial issues. People often said that Ivanka wasn't clear or committed. She did back entering the Paris Agreement behind the scenes, but that wasn't enough to stop people who didn't agree with her. A lot of people wondered if she was trying to bring people from different sides together, or if she was just not ready to take a stand. That famously calm Ivanka kept up her cool through it all, but the holes in her public image were starting to show. Ivanka Trump has been in a lot of scandals over the years. Each one made it harder for her to avoid the close attention she was used to getting from the media. Some people didn't like it when she met her father and Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, at the White House in 2017. The meeting was supposed to be about giving women more power, but it quickly turned into a political mess. Many people didn't like how Ivanka, who had never been to political school, was seen as a voice for women's problems while also being a top official in her father's government. People who didn't like her quickly pointed out that the lines between her personal brand and her political power were not clear. Then there were her business deals, which made people look twice. Ivanka's brand sales went through the roof whenever she was in the public eye, like when Kellyanne Conway backed Ivanka's clothesline on Fox News, which led to calls for an ethics probe. The fact that her personal life and political work kept overlapping seemed to blur the lines between right and wrong, drawing even more unwanted attention to her. It's not a surprise that Ivanka finally decided to step back. She was constantly under the spotlight, she had to deal with moral questions, and she was affected by politics. It must have been hard to balance personal beliefs with a public life that was so full of drama and attention. Many people were shocked when Ivanka Trump made a choice in 2018. She shut down her clothing line. The move came after a lot of trouble for almost 2 years. She stopped making clothes under her own name, which had become a brand that worked for working women and was sold at many retail shops. It looked like a brave move, but there were more layers to this story than meets the eye. These layers show as much about Ivanka's goals as they do about the stresses of public life. Ivanka Trump was working as a top assistant for her father, President Donald Trump, at the time. She was both a politician and a businessman, which made some people curious. They thought the two worlds were getting too close for comfort. Do you remember how sales of her clothing line went through the roof after she spoke at the 2016 Republican National Convention? People did notice that kind of connection, and it led to more than a few news stories about possible conflicts of interest. Then there were the protests. During Trump's leadership, when politics were very hot, many people stopped buying anything that had to do with families. Some stores, like Nordstrom, stopped selling her goods because they were not selling as well. But the real reasons were probably more complicated. As we all know, the line between business and politics had become less clear, and Ivanka's brand was stuck in the middle. She said in her statement that she closed her business so she could focus on her work in Washington, D.C. She said she couldn't keep up the brand while giving her full attention to her job in the White House. Some people thought it was smart of her to stay out of the growing scandals, while others wondered if it was a long-term plan to protect her image. What do you think? Was focusing on public service a choice made from the heart? Or was it a way to avoid the growing criticism? In either case, it was a big change for Ivanka, like she was moving from the office to a bigger stage. By June 2020, Ivanka Trump was used to being looked at closely by the public. But this time, the reaction was different. Protests against racial inequality and the effects of the pandemic were at the top of the national talk. The U.S. was at a turning point. Even so, Ivanka's social media posts showed that she wasn't caring about any of it. In a famous tweet, Ivanka showed off a finished picture of herself in a gown while welcoming graduates. It sounds safe, right? But it happened at a time when millions of Americans were dealing with high unemployment, unfair systems, and a lack of confidence about the future. Not many people were pleased. A lot of people didn't like the tweet because it seemed out of touch. It wasn't just what she wrote, it was also when. Lots of people say that timing is everything. The riots at the Capitol were a bad day in American history, and Ivanka was stuck in the middle of it all. During the event, she posted on social media a tweet calling the protesters American patriots. She quickly deleted the tweet, but the damage had already been done. A lot of people were critical of her quick and bad decisions and their impact, or lack thereof, during this very important time. It was quiet around Ivanka after the uprising. As the Trump administration finished, the politician who had been involved in the past faded into the background. Some saw it as a way to get away from the chaos, while others saw it as a smart move to keep her brand safe. What do you think? Did Ivanka's quiet after January 6th mean she was taking a step back for good? Or was it just a break before her next big move? That part of her story in this chapter made a lot of people wonder. What's next? Don't stop reading now, because there are more turns to come. Many people were surprised when Ivanka Trump made a public announcement in November 2022 that she would not be running for president with her father in 2024. Someone was not a small one. In typical Ivanka fashion, she told everyone the news in a carefully thought-out statement that emphasized her desire to spend time with her family and avoid being in the spotlight. In her own words, she was putting raising her kids ahead of being in the political center. It felt like an important moment. Ivanka was pointing out a change after years of being at the center of some of the most explosive events in recent U.S. history. That's not all she did. She seemed to draw a line in the sand. It looked like she wanted things to be normal, or at least as normal as they can be, when your last name is Trump. To be honest, this move made people look twice. Was she really trying to protect her family, or was she trying to stay away from the Trump brand, which is becoming more and more controversial? People couldn't help but guess. That being said, that's not often that someone who has been so public in politics steps down. Still, she turned down the chance to be a part of a campaign that a lot of people thought she'd be in the lead for. The attention then turned to Barron Trump, a new member of the Trump family. Barron had been mostly out of the public eye for most of his life, but during this campaign, he played a surprising and more public part, especially when it came to backing his father's policies. He is when he spoke out for youth, focus causes, or worked behind the scenes to improve campaign methods, Barron seemed to be coming into his own. People had been surprised by changes in the Trump family before, but this one was especially noticeable. Barron seemed ready to get involved in politics, though he did so slowly. Ivanka, on the other hand, chose to live a quieter, more reflective life. It was very interesting to see how different the brothers were. One stepped back to focus on her morals, while the other stepped forward to support their father's political legacy. A larger question was raised by this choice. Can you ever really leave the center after being there for so long? Is Ivanka making her own way, or is she just waiting for the next big thing to happen? What do you think about her taking a step back? People are always guessing what Ivanka will do next, whether they like her or not. Could be the most surprising thing she has ever done. By June 2023, Ivanka Trump began to show us a more private and thoughtful side of herself that many of us had not seen before. She had been in the public eye for years in fashion, on The Apprentice, and at the White House. Then she started to step back and post in a different way on social media. The well-done PR moments were over. Ivanka instead began to share more personal thoughts about being strong, being thankful, and forgiving. Her posts were different. They weren't about starting a business or endorsing a candidate. Instead, they gave hints of a change, an inner shift away from the busy life she used to have in the public eye. It seemed like she was giving us a sneak peek at the real Ivanka, behind the well-made image we knew her by. One post could be about getting stronger when things get hard, and another could be about how important family is and how healing works. Even though it was quiet, the signals were clear. There were more sides to Ivanka, than just business and politics. She looked like she was changing and looking for something more profound. The interesting thing is that this change was kind of nice for someone who has been in the news a lot lately. People are interested in what comes next. Ivanka posted something on social media on her 43rd birthday that wasn't the usual glitzy party or family picture. There was a lot at stake this time. Ivanka wrote an emotional thread in which she talked about her choice to stay out of politics. She said it wasn't just a choice, it was a step toward living an easier, more true life. Ivanka's life in the spotlight had not been easy. She was always in the news, from when she worked as a businesswoman for the Trump organization to when she was her father's top assistant during his presidency. But it wasn't just the fame or the money that seemed to bring her down. It was the constant pressure, the harsh criticism, and the damage it did to her family. In her post, she was honest about how the stress of public life had hurt not only her own mental health, but also the relationships with people she cared about. Now things start to get interesting. Ivanka said that she quit because she wanted to take back control of her life on her own terms. It was about making sure that her behaviors were in line with her core beliefs and values. She wanted to be real, but years of being in the public eye had probably kept that wish from coming out. It was important to her to be with her family and children. It's like she was telling herself, enough is enough. I need to heal. And who could blame her? The pressure to carry on her family's political tradition and the constant attention from the public would drive anyone crazy. She took a break. It felt like a new start in a way. She wanted to put herself and her family first by getting away from all the noise and chaos.